Hello, 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 and welcome in to Bear With Us on the Bear Claw Media podcast feed. And we have a very special guest joining me today. We have a literal bear with us, and maybe if you just see him, you're walking through the woods, maybe you would choose Bear because you watch him on the court, he's tenacious, but super nice guy. Brock Wisne, UNC, center, power forward, big. It's all a little bit ambiguous at this point, but about to be 3-year starter. So that's probably the most important thing. How you doing this afternoon, Brock?
I'm doing great. We were talking a little before the podcast, but last summer practice today. So it's always great feeling.
Yeah. So these are actually some additional summer practices, right? You wouldn't normally get this because it's a 4 p.m. on the dot. Look at us. I never start anything on time. So shout out. 4 p.m. Saturday afternoon. You guys fly out tomorrow morning?
Yeah, we fly out tomorrow morning at about 5:15. Like you said, it's extra practices. Normally we do go about 5 weeks of practice in the summer, but we are up to 7 of practice, 8 including this trip. So it's been a long summer, but it's also been a fun summer.
Nice. So Portugal heading out tomorrow. I don't know if I actually said that, but that's probably an important detail.
Yeah.
But how have it's not the last 7 weeks directly, but how have the 7 weeks of summer practice looked? I know about 50-50 guys coming back versus new faces.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody stood out? Anybody stood out negatively? Imagine you're not going to answer that one, but
No.
I'll leave it as open anywhere you want to take it.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, especially in today's college basketball scene, you bring in half the guys that you're returning, sometimes even less, and then you got to find half the guys, whether it's, new freshmen or new transfers. So it's always interesting. It's a different process year to year because you get into practices and you're like, okay, this team is not good at this, or this team can really catch on to defensive concepts quick. So I think for us, one of the things is, we're a typically young team. So just trying to teach guys, how to catch on to those concepts a little quicker. And I think the extra 2 weeks have helped a lot. We sometimes can be a little complicated in our ball screens or, Coach Smiley's a detailed guy. So I think, at the start it was a little difficult, so many people like guys like me, Zach and Quinn, that have been here a while and they know what's going on. They kind of just have to wait, kind of bring these guys up to speed that, just came here and they got to learn it in just like a month or two. So it's been interesting, but these past 2 weeks especially, it's looked good. Guys have been playing hard and energy's high in the gym always. So it's been going well.
Nice. Anybody that whether it be one of those returners, I know you, Zach, and Quinn, everybody, that seems like the core three kind of coming back, the most experienced guys on the team. Anybody outside of you three that have kind of stood out, or maybe somebody we should be keeping an eye on from the outside looking in?
Yeah, we have a lot of new talented guys. Vince from Portland, he's just recently back. He was out a little bit of the summer, but he's a skilled guard. He has a high IQ. There's a lot of other guys, that are just working their way in. Steven, a new guy, he's a shooter. He's done well. And Ring, he's out recently, but he's really athletic and he's talented and he's long built. Guards like Caden and Chance who can really shoot it and create off the dribble sometimes. So I don't know if it's per se anybody's just like shining above the rest, but all the guys are doing their stuff and showing why they deserve to be here. So.
Okay, awesome. And yeah, from what I've gathered, UNC's kind of, even though Smiley and co recently especially have really leaned into the transfer portal and some of the best players have come over as transfers, along with a lot of homegrown guys like you, Langston, Zach. Is it harder? I know you probably can't speak to it super clearly since you've only been at UNC, but do you think what you guys are doing here is a little bit more difficult to maybe pick up in a couple months than what a lot of places around the country are doing?
Yes and no. So I think that we are detailed. Smiley's very detailed, and because of that, it can be hard sometimes to pick it up, especially with new guys coming in. But at the same time, he always tries to build a core group of leadership or veteran guys that are experienced, and he'll meet with them and he'll make sure that we're player led. So these guys that have been here a while, they're able to lead and kind of bring the guys up to standard it's kind of like having, coaches, on the team like always. So just kind of being player led, I think has helped a lot, especially when, we want to be so detailed and sometimes complicated with ball screens and certain stuff. So, but I think, yes, it's difficult because it's complicated, but at the same time, we have a pretty good system going on here, just leadership and stuff.
Okay. And I'm glad you brought that up because, like you said, with the new era of college basketball, a lot of guys in and out and every year. And you've not kind of, you've 100% bucked that trend heading into year 4 here at UNC. Feels like a very linear kind of build, to the
Hmm.
point where you very well could and are maybe slated to be a focal piece of this offense this year. Have you felt any responsibility, especially this year as a senior, to step into that more of a leadership role as somebody who's been here for so long?
Yeah, I mean, just in the past, I was always kind of just doing what I had to do to win. Last year, I was trying to be a leader, but at the same time, there's always been someone that's older than me. Like Jaron in the past year, Saint when I was a sophomore, and Isaiah last year. It was like his fifth or sixth year. But yeah, I feel that a little bit, just responsibility of just being the old guy. Been here 4 years, going into year 4. So there is some of that, but at the same time, I think the coaches do a good job of, trying to relieve that pressure and just saying, we want the best guys out there, and there's not anybody that we want to just be the star. We want everybody to contribute, and that's kind of how our team works. So.
Okay. And yeah, let's pivot forward to this Portugal trip here. There's honestly not a ton of information available kind of on it. So I know everybody's playing 2 out of 3. It seems like it's going to be bang, 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 kind of get there, take a
Mhm.
day beforehand, a day after, but really, really focused on basketball for those 3 days, especially. Do you guys know who you're playing? The 3 teams, kind of how much information do y'all have coming into this?
I really don't think we have that much. I think I have just as much as the coaches do, and anybody on our staff does. But I've seen the itinerary. It says we play some. They were just it wasn't like Portuguese, but it was just like Portuguese All Stars, Portuguese Elite, and like Select. Those were like the 3. We don't have much info on the teams. I don't think that this is one of those trips where we go and like in the past we were scouting and doing all this prep beforehand. I think it's more so just get the team together and go play with what we've learned in these 7 weeks. And the other days are kind of just team bonding. Even on the days of, we have some fun stuff like on Tuesday, our first game, we have like a tuk tour and like a river cruise on the second day. So we're focused on basketball, and that's what we're there for. But at the same time, we're also there for the team and exploring and learning together.
Okay. And it seems like that's been kind of a strong point of the last handful of UNC teams. I don't have a ton to kind of compare and contrast against, but last year it seemed like you guys were a really tight bunch. And kind of from all I've heard this year, it seems to be rounding into similar shape. How important, especially early, to have these 2 weeks of practice, then another week of not only basketball, but yeah, like hanging out with the guys, being around, and not that it's like forced to be around them, but you're
Yeah,
all in Portugal. Like it
yeah.
makes sense to go out and do all these things.
Yeah, it puts us way ahead the curve. People don't realize how important team chemistry and team bonding is in college basketball nowadays. If you have that, you're ahead of like 90 to 95% of the teams, especially like we talked about the transfer portal. It's so hard to find a group that really connects and glues together. Like, I feel like my past 2 years we've had that. Um, so you want it to be natural. You want the guys to just get along and enjoy being around each other because when you get deep into the weeds and deep into the year and you're tired of coming to practice, if you have a group that you're excited to be around, then it just makes those moments a lot more enjoyable. And, happy players are going to play a lot better than players that are, mad to be there. So that's a huge piece of it. We're really excited. We've gotten along well this summer. So.
Okay, nice. And I know a couple coaches. It sounds like some other players are either bringing some family along, or families maybe meeting them there, and then kind of hanging out afterwards. Anybody coming with you, or you going out solo just with the boys on this one?
Yeah, I'm solo. I got a big family. I got 5 other siblings, and even in my past, AAU days and all that stuff, my family's never come on an out of state trip even. Out of country, I feel like was out of the picture. But we have a few guys that are bringing their families, which sounds like fun. And I'm sure my parents would have loved to come, but they would have been leaving a bunch of kids alone at the house, and that doesn't sound like it would work too well. They'll just watch me from home or get the news from home, however that works.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, do you know, is there any way to watch these games? They feel exhibition, so I imagine like it would kind of almost be a luck into it. But have you heard anything in that regard?
Yeah, I highly doubt there is. When I said that, I was like, no, I don't think there's a way. Especially because you don't want other teams getting any film or any stuff like that. We'll get our own film, I'm sure. Smiley loves film, so he'll have these games recorded on his own little private drive, I'm sure. But I highly doubt it'll be out there. Probably just have to get it through the grapevine or something like that.
Okay, nice. Yeah, the film's interesting. After Weber State, when you guys clinched last year, I think it was such like a chaotic scene that the Weber, whoever is kind of in charge of that, just found I was the one person in like a UNC polo, and she
Yeah.
just like handed me the drive with the game film on it, and I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to be handling this right now, but I'll get it to who it needs to be.
Yeah, I'm sure you're more than qualified to hold on to that for a little bit, but
Nice. Anything in
yeah.
particular you are looking forward to on this Portugal trip, whether it be kind of the getting a game environment early or just kind of some time to hang out with the boys or just being in another place that I imagine is going to be pretty nice this time of year.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of all the above. Honestly, I'm super excited to go over there, but at the same time, I'm so excited about the basketball piece. Especially, someone that could envision possibly finding myself playing overseas, getting an opportunity to play like that. Whether it's the FIBA rules, the ball, or just the play styles out there. So the basketball piece, I'm excited for. Whenever you play a new team, it's always exciting. But past that, I'm really excited to get out there and hang out with the boys for sure. It's feels like a little bit of a vacation. It's like work hard, play hard, kind of. So it'll be exciting.
Okay. Nice. And then yeah, it seems like UNC has a knack at whether it be the people the players they're bringing in, how they're developing them, or whatever it may be. A lot of pros that end up going on from UNC to playing overseas. Is that you just mentioned it? Is that do you have any specific goals for that, or is it kind of let's finish this senior year and see kind of where the chips fall?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any laid out goals. Whereas making a certain league, every kid's dream, the NBA or playing, going overseas and making money. But at the same time, I'm just fully dove in and I'm bought in on this year. 'Cause, when you start thinking too far into the future, you lose track of what's going on right in front of you. So just trying to focus on it's my last year, give everything I got, fully dive into the team and the culture. And after that, whatever happens is supposed to happen. So,
Okay. Okay, let's pivot to you a little bit. I'm sure that's your favorite thing to talk about. But you mentioned your family earlier, 5 siblings. Correct me if any of this is wrong, but from what I could gather, dad played football at Notre Dame, then into
mhm.
the NFL. Was mom a swimmer at Notre Dame, cross country?
She's
Um,
swimmer. Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
So athletic family. I saw your sister played basketball at Indiana. Is that
Yes,
correct?
sir.
So was this kind of from a young age you like see everybody around you and you're like, okay, I imagine you're 6'8" now. You were probably a little bigger than a lot of the kids growing up. Was basketball always the plan, or how'd this come to be?
Yeah, it's weird. Both my parents, neither of them played basketball. And you'd be like, why wouldn't the dad make the boys do football and all this stuff? I think basketball is just kind of what it was. Like you're saying, from a young age, I enjoyed it. When you have fun doing something, it sticks. I mean, that's just how it's been. I've thought in the past, like maybe I should have done football because then I can just go play mad and not have to think. But absolutely, yeah, basketball has kind of always been it for me. So.
Okay. So have you been in Colorado your whole life? You were at Thornton High School and then Colorado Prep. Did you grow up in here, or did you kind of move in at some point?
Yeah, I've been here my whole life. We moved here when I was like a baby after my dad was done in the NFL. But yeah, I moved here. I went to Horizon. It was actually Horizon High School in
Okay.
Thornton. I went there for 2 years, my freshman and sophomore year, and then to Colorado Prep, and that's just kind of what it's been. You know, my family's still in the same spot, which is nice. So I'm a Colorado kid for sure.
Nice. And what how did you end up at Colorado Prep? Because I know with you, Langston Brock, and or you, Langston, Zach, and Egan, which is a little bit different because it wasn't quite the same era, but how'd you end up at Colorado Prep? Was that kind of in the COVID era where they were playing games and high schools weren't necessarily, or
Yeah, that's actually exactly it. You know, I was going into my junior year, and at first I was like, you know, I'm just gonna stick it out in high school. And I told my coach like I was staying, and then, you know, the COVID shut everything down. I'm like, gosh, like they're gonna play like barely no games this year, and I could go here and play like 60, 70 games, and still have a full junior year. So yeah, it was that was what it came down to. And you know, Colorado Prep, it was a great decision, prepared me for college. So that is how it went down, though. Yeah.
okay. And what so I think I have the timeline down. Zach was the first Colorado Prep kid to commit to UNC, right? Because he was
Yes, sir.
a year ahead of you and Langston, I think.
Yep.
And so when did UNC kind of come on your radar? Was that before Colorado Prep, or did you kind of start really? That's when you got the shine.
Yeah. So I know they contacted me my junior year. Um, I think they just like early in my recruitment, and they recruited me throughout the entire process. They're the only like fully consistent team, so you know they do a good job of, you know, building real connections with their players that they're recruiting, and not just throwing offers around like some colleges do. So you know they do it like the real and right way, it feels like. But yeah, that's just always what it was. And I committed early my senior year, before the season. So yeah, they've just kind of like, you know, I had a long relationship with them before then, before all of it. So that's kind of how it went for me.
Okay, was Houston the first one that kind of reached out to you? I know he's the
Yeah,
both the in-state and kind of the big man coach. Wh-
yeah, he was. I've known Reed for a while now. I didn't know how he was at the time, just a big goofy guy, but he's awesome. He's really funny, and yeah, he reached out early on, and I talked to him for a while before committing. So yeah,
Okay. Yeah, what was your first impression? I'm interested because he does seem kind of, a little intimidating, especially
yeah,
you hear him holler a little bit. He can be
yeah,
scary, but then you kind of peel it back and he's a big goofball.
yeah. At first I don't even know. He tries to connect with my dad. He says my dad and him are cut from the same cloth. They're just two big guys. So yeah, you know how he is. He's loud, and he's always the same like person. He doesn't change for any moment or anything. So it's, you know, you get the impression that he's a real like real guy.
And so Smiley was about to tell a story at the Big Sky Conference tourney here last year, but they were running a pretty tight ship with the media. He mentioned in one of your visits that you were talking about coming off a screen shooting threes. Is how much truth is there to that, and how did that kind of play out?
Well, it's a funny story. When they were like recruiting me hard, and when I committed, it was probably like the worst stretch of my basketball career. So I was playing three, my last club season. You know, we had a lot of big guys. We had two guys from Senegal, and they had me like coming off screens, and at like then and I just I was just not skilled in that way, so I didn't expect to do that, honestly. But Smiley likes to make fun of me for them playing me at the three, because obviously I play the five now in college, so it doesn't make much sense. But there's definitely some truth to that. I don't know how much I thought I was a three. Maybe I did, but it's all blur in the past. But there's definitely some truth to that. Yeah.
So when you came in, you played a lot your freshman year. What did the roster look like at that time? And was that kind of was there much of a like any oh shit moment, or was it kind of like, oh, I feel almost maybe more comfortable playing in position here
Yeah.
than kind of running off of screens at the prep level?
Yeah, man. So yeah, my freshman year, you know how it is. You get shocked regardless, you know, of how prepared you are. Um, more so just like how hard college basketball is. You can't really prepare for how fast the game is, or how cutthroat it can be sometimes. And our team that year, especially, I felt like we had a lot of talent. Dalen, who had a great career, he's doing like really well overseas. Dalton, obviously a first round draft pick, and Matt Johnson. We had a down year, but I would say all I was trying to do that whole year was scrounge my way into the lineup. As a freshman, it's so hard to crack the rotation sometimes, especially nowadays. And my only goal was just to play hard and separate myself so that I could create those opportunities. And it didn't work right away. Like beginning of the season, I wasn't playing a ton, but as it went on, it progressed. And my only goal was really just to do what the coaches wanted me to do. So I just did what they told me.
Probably a pretty solid strat coming in.
Yeah.
So how has your game evolved since that freshman year? I know one of the things that stands out to me is you have just incredible touch around the basket. Even kind of against in the beginning of last year, it felt like there was kind of an unnatural stretch of like 7-footers that you were going against. But as soon as and you didn't look bad by any means, but as soon as like conference play started and everybody was a little bit, more, there weren't this Oscar Cloughs.
Yeah.
It really felt like it rounded into shape. So is that something you've noticed a progression at, or what do you think's changed the most in your game from your freshman year?
Yeah, I mean, my post game for sure and touch around the basket. That's not something I was always I never particularly thought that I was incredible at, but in college I've learned that's what works for me, and especially I'd say my passing is something that has come around. I passed a little, but I wasn't like known to be a passer or someone that can have the offense run through me at times, but as I got better and learned the game more and thought it out and just played the game at my pace, that's something that I think I've gotten a lot better at and proficient at. So yeah.
Okay. And maybe it was just kind of an odd sample size. Maybe it was just the practice I was at. You're still kind of, I'm sure, ahead of just about everybody else as far as like game plan stuff. But it felt like you were in a lot more positions with your ball and with the ball in your hands, maybe at the perimeter, at the couple practices I've been to this summer. Is that something you see kind of evolving even further moving into next year? Maybe you're more of a decision maker since, I mean, Jaron, Langston, and Isaiah, like kind of the big three, like with the ball in their hands last year, are out now.
Yeah, definitely. I think I can take some of the share of that. People have to pick up that because all those guys, like you said, are three most ball dominant guys. They're all gone. So definitely being able to do that. Coach Smiley's really smart, so he'll get me in the positions, to make reads sometimes, and I think he'll want to do that. But that's something that I for sure feel like I could do well at. And it's all up to the coaches trusting in me and me doing well with what they give me. But yeah, definitely.
Okay. And one thing that kind of sticks out, I think Smiley said it. I don't know whether it was a post game, a podcast on the radio, but he mentioned like until the last 2 minutes, really, the ball is going to be in your hands just about as much as it was in Jaron's hands or Langston's. Just kind of with the way the offense runs, it
Hmm.
seems very fluid. What kind of is it about this offense that seems so appealing to fans, especially? But then I know Houston mentioned it was one of the things that they really sell hard to recruits coming in.
Yeah, I mean, our team plays in a different way than a lot of teams. A lot of teams like to put the ball in their guy's hand and just let him work with it for 40 minutes. Whereas on our team, I think everybody touches the ball almost every single possession. So it's a very ball movement heavy team. It's a team that's built off of taking the right shots and playing together. So that appeals obviously to fans because that all that ball movement, hitting guys, being unselfish, that looks great, and it also works great, statistically. There was a stat like we were the number one field goal percentage in the nation last year or something. So it's fun to watch and it's fun to play in. Also, like you said, they sell it to guys because who doesn't want to come to a team where you're going to get a chance to touch the ball, whereas other teams may just want to ISO and tell you to sit in the corner. So definitely that.
Okay. And I imagine it would be hard to say no, but do you think that kind of ball movement, like I kind of liken it back to the Spurs when they were in their LeBron kind of feud. Balls popping. Do you think that's like very hand in hand with leading the country in field goal percentage? Just
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we do this thing called shot quality, and it's grading good shots and bad shots, and we rarely took like more than like 3 bad shots a game out of like 70 something. So when you're moving the ball and you're finding the open guy, you're just bound to get the most open shots you can get, the best shots, and that makes sense.
okay. And it feels like it almost kind of it plays into whatever the team's strengths are automatically because I've always thought of UNC as like a high volume 3-point team over the past handful of years, but that didn't really seem the case last year. It
Yeah.
wasn't like you were not taking them, but it never feels like there are plays drawn up to get a three. It feels like I guess one, is that true? And then is it just kind of it's not roll the ball out and just play, but is it kind of like do what we know how to do and a good shot will kind of present itself?
Yeah, there's a lot of times that we do something that's called like a flow on offense. So there's no specific play or read that you're making. You're just kind of playing together. Last year's team, we shot the ball well, but we didn't shoot like a ton of threes, like you're saying. So it was built off of guys getting to the cup and finding open guys. And it changes from year to year though, because Smiley's really smart. So he's gonna take the team that you have, and he's gonna mold it into what would work best. Even this year, we have a ton of 3-point shooting. Like guys on this team can really shoot it. So that maybe that changes from year to year. Maybe this year we're specifically looking at reads to get those open threes. But like I said, it changes from year to year. Last year was definitely dominant on the getting to the basket and finding open guys. But yeah, it always changes. But at the same time, the core of it stays the same.
Okay. And I noticed you were practicing with a 24-second shot clock. I That may have just been because that's how it'll be over in Portugal, but is that something you do a lot, kind of speeding up the shot clock in practice? And either if so, or just kind of the general style that you guys play. I imagine it leads to you making a lot of like split second decisions in practice, which can only kind of benefit when those inevitably come up in games.
Yeah, I mean, we in that specific moment we were doing 24 for the FIBA rules because we're going overseas. But we do have a lot of moments where we do that. So we do one that's it's kind of like a riverboat. So there'll be 8 seconds on the shot clock, and we got to go down. So um, we generally like to play really fast. Transition is something we're proficient at and have been in the past. So that's something that we practice. Is if the ball comes off, even if it's a make, just sometimes rifling the ball down the floor to get the best look we can as quick as possible. We're a high scoring team. We play fast, and I think that's something that Smiley likes to drill into us early in the year, early in the summer, and we do those type of drills.
Okay. And so I guess this is a bit of news to anybody who's listening that cares too much. I saw Quinn changed to 35 this year,
Yeah,
and Zach switched from 11 to 8, I believe. And I heard that you were considering making a change too. So how close were you to changing your number, and what number was it? Because I was trying to find the numbers your dad wore, and I saw 74, 77, and 79.
yeah,
So was that actually pretty close to coming to fruition?
yeah. That's funny you ask that. So I was thinking about it. I obviously didn't decide to, but they were all in the hype of changing the jerseys. I'm like, maybe I should. I almost did, my sophomore year going into my junior, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. I'm a big goofy guy, just play hard. So one of those high numbers would make sense for me. And so I was thinking about it, and like you said, my dad's numbers, but you got it. It was actually my dad's Notre Dame number, so 71
Oh, okay.
was the one I was thinking about. You're on the right track, but I was thinking about it. I was close, but I don't know how close. I would say like if you needed like 100%, I was probably 50-50. I mean, I obviously lean towards not, but it was something I thought about. Then I was like, no, that's doing too much. So I'll stick with what I've done for 3 years. But it would have been interesting for sure.
I heard, is Ibu wearing 54? Is that
Yeah,
uh, I enjoy those. Like Luca has almost made it a little more cool, which
yeah,
I think I dislike because I don't want it to be cool. Like you said, like I
yeah,
love the idea of you kind of lumbering up and down in 70, 71, diving on the floor. But
yeah.
14 served you well, so I can't blame you for sticking with it on that one.
Yeah, might as well. I mean, yeah, Ibu's 54. I like those high numbers too. It's interesting. It changes the game up a little bit, but I just didn't come through with it. So,
Okay. And we talked a little bit earlier. You mentioned the passing is kind of what's come this far, or what's maybe progressed the most this far in your college career. What's kind of the next evolution? Even if it's something as simple as maybe being a little more aggressive, looking for that shot
yeah.
more. What do you see being the next step to your game this year?
Yeah, for me, I would say two things personally. One, like you actually mentioned, is just the aggressiveness. Like just attacking a little bit more here and there, and then it also comes down to 3-point shooting. I feel like I've always been a good 3-point shooter. Like I'm top four on the team in all the drills and personal best. So that's something I've always had. I just haven't been able to put it together in game. But especially going into this year, that's something that I think is 100% going to be a part of my game. Being able to space out and shoot that confidently. This summer's felt the best. Whether it's just in the past, I've thought it's just shooting everyone, but I've been taking the right ones and being mature about it. So I think that's probably the number one thing. That's the next evolution. Going into this year and the next years, it's something that's been a long time coming for me. So yeah,
Okay. Well, since you said your top four, I who are the other three? I can guess that Zach's probably one of them.
yeah.
Um, Out of left field, Hunter Caldwell seems like he might be a guy who in drills is shooting it
Yeah,
really
I
well.
mean, he is probably one of the best in-game shooters, and in our practices, he barely missed. But actually, in practice, he doesn't fare too well. He gets upset. He's always like he's talking about drills like I hate NBA shooting. It's like one of the drills that we do. Um, but yeah, he does well. So Zach was correct. Quinn, um,
Okay.
I think he topped the board this year, and then actually Tanner Brakita shot the ball well. So yeah.
Okay. So I think you've nailed it in the senior leadership. You've given shout outs to both the true freshmen. Uh Tanner Brakita, I don't know as much about Steven Ramirez, but from everything I've seen and heard, Tanner Brakita is kind of above what you'd expect out of a freshman. Um, who, what does he bring? And do you think it's, like you said, it's tough to crack the rotation as a true freshman.
Mhm.
Um, but what does he and Steven kind of bring to this team that maybe not was missing last year, but
Yeah, I think they bring. First of all, they both bring shooting. They're both exceptional shooters. But above that, I think they bring kind of that freshman grit that I was talking about for myself earlier. Wanting so bad to be a part of this group and wanting so bad to play or help your team out. They're always going to do the right things and do stuff that benefits the team. And if you're a team-oriented player, you're always going to have a chance. That's something they have, on that little chip on their shoulder, if you want to put it that way, that they have that can help progress them along this freshman year. That's a big piece of it. So
okay. And are you an NBA guy? Like, do you pay attention to NBA? Like, do you watch it much?
I pay enough attention. I'm not crazy, but I'll watch a good amount of the games.
Okay. Do you have a player comp that you kind of, whether you model your game after them or just kind of happen that way?
Man, yeah, I didn't model my game after the person that I think is my player comp at all. It's just kind of, but there's a few like passing wise and IQ wise. I like Sengun, or
Okay.
Jokic. Jokic even, he's a great passer, but almost like Al Horford esque kind of.
Okay.
I mean, just about my same build, and I look for those guys that are similar, talented athletically. So, um, yeah, I mean, about that.
Okay. Was there anybody that you kind of modeled your game after, whether it kind of played out that way or not?
Man, I don't think I was sitting there and like thinking about modeling myself. I think when I when I do like certain parts of my game, I try to think about that person. So like when I was a kid, I'd always be like, oh, when I'm shooting, like try to be like Klay Thompson, great form, or when I'm passing, think about guys that can really pass it, whether it's like in the past, let me think, like Jokic, like those type of guys, or like that, or defense, what makes these defensive guys, good. So just like that, taking pieces of my game and taking the best from the NBA and seeing why they're the best at what they do. So just, I would say I did it that way.
Okay. And with the Big Sky in particular, it feels like just about all the bigs that were kind of marquee names have moved out. I know Carson Hoyt or Toy. I think Hoyt is it.
Tout, I think.
Tao. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. I'll cut that. Don't worry. He's over at Notre Dame. I know Sac State basically completely reset their roster. Are there any games, whether it's somebody that is coming back or some new people you want to see, like that you have circled coming up on the schedule this year?
Yeah, man, Montana, that's circled. Our we had some pretty heavyweight fights last year, and they came out on top in the end. But you know, getting back to that game, that's one. One that's interesting, like you said, Sac State. Nobody's per se scared of them, but just on the side of they're brand new and they have all this hype. So let's see what they're really about, type of thing. But I wouldn't say there's any others that I'm circled. The league's so new. There's certain road games you love to play, such as Montana State with a ton of fans. But those are the ones that I would say I've thought about at least.
Okay. Any non-con games? I know a couple of them, but I don't think the schedule's like officially released. But any that you know of that you're kind of excited, whether it be like a Texas Tech even last year, or more so like a Cal Baptist where it's kind of a like opponent, but you're getting a good matchup.
Yeah, I mean on the heavyweight side, CU is always one that I feel like we got to get them. This is my last year, so CU, Texas Tech, I'm really excited for going there and give them a run for their money. Hopefully, see if we can get it done. And the like opponents, like you said, there's some good ones. I always, the Summit League Challenge is always a good piece. We have Omaha and I think South Dakota this year, and then I'm also excited for we have a three games in 3 days. Portland, I think Bakersfield, I want to say, and then St. Thomas also from the Summit League. So those games I get excited for because it's teams that are new that maybe you haven't played, and they're like opponents instead of playing the same league teams every year. So
I'm also excited for that 3 days in Portland. I'm really hoping we can make it out to those.
it'd be a good one.
But nice. Then who you're kind of an undersized five. I imagine you'd admit that too. Yeah, definitely make up for it. But who are like the ideal 4 players to put around you, whether they be actual names of players or it's just like an archetype, like a athletic, like 3-and-D wing or something. Who do you
Man,
think you could like round out the perfect team around you with?
yeah, let me think. I'll just think about like the guys that I like to play. So I love to play with guys that they have a high IQ guards. Whether that's cutting to the basket or finding me in rolls or just getting the team open. So I like to work like Jaron. I enjoyed playing with Jaron so much because me and him would connect on the IQ side of things. Whether it's making certain reads or getting into position. I like playing with guys at the 4 that maybe are athletic and can block shots because, like you said, I that's not my thing. So having a 4 that could do that or guys that are willing to. But I think the number one thing that I like to have around me is just guys that take pride on defense. Guys that try as hard as they can and are locked in because at the end of the day, if they get scored on, we're like you gave everything you had and you worked hard and you took pride in it. And I get upset, when guys will play defense and they just don't care, like if they get scored on. And I think that's why we were so good last year. We had everybody did that. It honestly started with Langston and Zach, just sitting down and just taking ultimate pride in guarding the guy in front of them, and it just kind of went from there. So
Okay. What do you think this team's identity will be this year? because you guys seem very, very tough nosed, but it's still so early. Maybe some of the finer pieces haven't rounded into shape yet. But what
Yeah.
do you think it will be kind of when you look back on your senior season? What do you think you'll be able to point to and be like, that was what made UNC this year?
Yeah. I mean, I think what it's going to take is it's going to take toughness, resilience. I would say resilience is probably the word that we need most, and with our build that we have, that we can really do. Just a team that won't give up, and guys that are willing to do whatever it takes. And so I think that's what it really could be. And I think it's what we need and what we have. So I would say that.
Okay. Any bold predictions for this year before I let you go? Don't want to get you in too much trouble, but anything you want to put your name behind?
Man, I'm putting my name behind winning conference. That's the prediction. That's our goal. That's our team goal. That's my goal. Just kind of diving in, giving everything we got. That's all I got though.
No, that's a great answer. I love to hear that. And did getting so close last year, winning the title regular season or sharing with Montana, and then losing in that Big Sky title game, does that just kind of add to that hunger for, we saw how close we were, we kind of know what it takes, and like it just adds to that drive to get back to that spot?
Yeah, man, we're hungry, like you said, and we're battle hardened. We like you look at. I was thinking about it, I haven't told anyone, but look at Montana State. They lost in the championship. I think 3 years ago, and then they came back the next year and they won it in the conference tournament. So that type of thing. You got guys that first of all know what it takes to be there, and now you know what it takes to win. So I think we have that veteran, battle hardened energy, but also we're hungry. We're hungry to get back there, and that's what we have.
Well, I think that's all I had for you. Anything? First off, thank you so much for coming on. This was
No
awesome.
problem. Thank you for
Anything?
having me.
Yeah, dude, of course. Open invite. You ever want to come back on? You just hit me up. I don't do shit, so I got you. I got you within the hour if you want it. So,
Yeah.
anything you wanna plug? You got a rap album coming out, pop punk album coming out? Anything? This is your chance to be selfish, please.
I'm a simple guy, man. I'm humble. That's just what it is. I'm a Jesus guy. I'm a team guy. I'm a people guy. So I got nothing. I'm simple.
Thank you once again, Brock. You were awesome. And everybody, please, 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 if you like what we're doing here, like, subscribe, comment, tell your mom to like, subscribe, comment. And if you don't like it, Ben's not on this episode, but his inbox is always open. So direct your nasty messages to him. Have a good one.